know yourself and take the time to think about who you are. And that way, the paths that you select will more likely be paths that you enjoy because you deserve it. You gave that time to your country. You busted your tail for how many ever years. You deserve to be in an organization that values you and that you value what you're doing.
Welcome to the 7 Eagle Group podcast, your home for inspiring stories, valuable tips, and great advice from hard-charging veterans so you can lead a more rewarding and lucrative post-military career.
Hey everybody, it is Jordy from 7 Eagle Group. I got an amazing guest today with just an incredible story, very inspiring. He does some amazing work for the military community. He's been doing that his whole life, and I am just so thrilled to have him on. He's a state rep from Hillsborough County in New Hampshire, so we're near each other. We're not far. He went to West Point, left in '82. 34 years, if I have that right, in the military. Just an amazing run, and not just working in politics, but he also has a little side gig where he works with the Wounded Warrior Project and helps our veterans. He takes them on fishing and hiking and kayaking trips and just really doing some cool stuff with them, and loves also a ski patrol in the winter. So please welcome James Creighton.
Jordy, thank you. I appreciate you having me. And congratulations to what you and 7 Eagles does for our veterans.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you, James. I appreciate it. And thanks for taking some time to chat today and sort of share your story. I know a lot of veterans, especially transitioning ones, I think are going to be interested in hearing about your path. So, let's start at the beginning. Where did you grow up? What sort of headed you down that path of serving in the Army?
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, but my dad was drafted in '65, and we lived at Fort Knox, Kentucky, where there is the Patton Museum. And at 5 years old, that's where I fell in love with the Army.
Wow.
And so I went to West Point in '78, graduated in '82 as an artilleryman, and then served in Germany in the 101st, the 10th Mountain, served in Korea, the Honduras, and then the tours in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, as most of my contemporaries did. And I just loved every minute of it. But then about 12 years ago, the Army said, "Hey, you're too old and fat, and it's time to leave." And so I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, well, at 50 years old, now what do you do? This is what you've always wanted to do. And so I reached out to my network and I used them as a sounding board. Hey, you know me. You know what my skills are. Where do you think I fit into this civilian world that's completely different to me?
Yeah.
And through that network, I got a job in New York City as the chief operating officer for the East-West Institute, which was a global non-for-profit that did a lot of diplomacy and searching for answers to most difficult problems. So we had an office in Moscow, a lot of work in Beijing, Afghanistan. We did some work with the Iranians, trying to solve these problems that are very hard and very difficult. But that was a fascinating 4 years. And then I left there and came up to New Hampshire, where we built a house, and really retired, but not well. I started 2 businesses. One is a consulting business, and I teach leadership up at the School of Business at Dartmouth, Tuck. I also have done work in China and Russia in that capacity. But my passion really is with the Wounded Warrior Project and my small guide company called Ursa Major Northeast Guides, where we take the Wounded Warriors up for a week at a time and help them in their healing process, mostly PTSD guys, and help them try to overcome some of the obstacles that they're facing. And that's a lot of fun, very rewarding. And like you said, the ski patrol, that I never thought I'd be a professional skier, but here I am. And I guess most recently, I just published my book through the Marine Corps University Press called Coalition Leadership.
Oh, wow.
which looks to extract the lessons learned as a brigade commander in Afghanistan, where I had 9 different countries, about 3,000 folks working for me in the province of Ursa in Regional Command South. And looking at some of the things we did really pretty well, and then some of the things I wish I'd done better, and trying to get those lessons out to future leaders who are going to be in the same position.
Yeah.
They're going to have the same challenges, and hopefully they won't make the same mistakes we did. So it's a busy life, Jordy, but I'm loving every minute of it.
I love it. What makes you want to like continue to give back to your brothers and sisters and do the guide trips and everything you do with wounded warriors? Why do you still stay involved?
Really, what I recognize is that the only way I got to where I was because there are a lot of people that vested in me. As a wild second lieutenant, I had great leaders that saw something, some nugget of diamond in the rough there that they drug me along. And so I think that I owe it to them. I owe it to the leaders that helped me along to give back to future leaders and to other folks that are going through the same thing.
Yeah, I love that. What when you look back on your time in service, what are some of your favorite sort of the memories of that, or how did that make you the man you are today? Like, how did that build this strong foundation?
It all goes back to relationships, buddies. Every memory that you have that's worth anything, at least for me, has to do with a buddy.
Hmm.
It has to do with someone that either helped me or that I helped, or someone that we worked hard together to overcome an obstacle. And that's what the Army's all about, is overcoming obstacles, working together as a team. And so in every instance, when I look back on an organization, it always is about the people that I worked with.
Yeah.
And maintaining those relationships.
Yeah. What advice would you have, James, for business owners who are considering bringing on military veterans to their teams? How can that veteran candidate make their companies better? Why are they a good choice for new staff members?
That's a great question. And as a state rep, I talk to a lot of businesses. Many people have the frustration that they hire people that, one, they're not sure if they're going to show up on time. A veteran will always show up on time. They're not sure whether that person will take the initiative. A veteran will always take the initiative. They're not sure whether that person will be able to lead, take charge of a situation, and take that burden off the business owner's back. A veteran will always do that. And so you might not be hiring the most technically competent person because of the specific aspects of your business, whether it's a boxing business or a paper business or a metal business.
Yeah.
But that veteran will learn. And that veteran will be a valuable part of your organization because he takes the initiative. He's a quick learner, and he or she is going to be loyal to that team.
Yeah.
That's a universal. I think that's almost a universal quality of veterans that come out.
And every business owner could benefit from those quality traits. I mean, you could teach the new hire the skills. You can't teach those character traits, though.
Yeah, the integrity, the honesty, the dedication, all that inherent. Really, it's in the DNA of every veteran.
Yeah,
is those attributes.
What advice would you have for some transitioning service members who are getting ready to start their career? What are the best paths for these people to explore, or things that they should think of as they're heading out on this next chapter, which I imagine is a challenging one, right? You're coming from a life of service, especially someone like you served 34 years, and then to come out into this new world almost. What are some of the things that helped you get through that, and what do you recommend, especially for the younger men and women?
It's a great question because it's a daunting task. And so the first thing I would say is to take some quiet time and think introspectively about who you are, what it is that you like to do, what it is that you're good at, and what it is that you're proud of.
Yeah.
What are those core items in your heart that you want to pursue? And what that'll allow you to do is turn some things off. So for me, for example, I knew I did not want to go into the contracting military industrial complex. Not that there's anything bad with it. That's just not who I am.
Right.
I knew I wanted to be a leader in an organization. I knew I wanted to continue to serve to make the world a safer place. And I knew I wanted to work internationally. And so those things helped me frame my search such that I knew what it was that I was looking for when I found it.
Right. As opposed to like looking at who's hiring and let me see if I could go apply when you did the soul searching first, which I like.
It's true. Know yourself.
Yeah.
Know yourself and take the time to think about who you are at the core.
Yeah.
And that way, the paths that you select will more likely be paths that you enjoy because you deserve it.
Yeah.
You gave that time to your country. You busted your tail for how many ever years. You deserve to be in an organization that values you and that you value what you're doing.
No doubt. I like how
So
you meant, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. There's one other aspect to that was valuable, and it's the way that I ended up in several of the places I am. And that is that you have to engage your network. And your network is much broader than you think.
Right.
It's your squad leader. It's your platoon sergeant. It's your company commander. It's your battalion commander. It's anyone that you've served with that has a vested interest in you. And be systematic about lining those people up and reaching out.
Yeah.
And in my experience doing this now for 12 years, 100% of the time people come back and say, "Hey, Jordy, man, I'm so glad you reached out. How are you doing? How can I help?"
Yeah.
Okay, I don't have a job for you. You're not asking for a job. What you're asking for is advice.
Yep.
Jordy, I got it. I know exactly where you fit in. Let me connect you with a buddy. Have you talked to these people? Let's meet for lunch. It's always positive.
Yeah.
And it won't necessarily lead to an exact job, but by the time you go through your network, there's opportunities that are going to come up.
Yeah. And I love that advice because that's the best way to make connections for yourself and get jobs is ask for advice. The jobs will come later. Don't ask for the job. But also to add to what you're saying, I'm a civilian. I didn't serve, but anytime throughout my career, someone in the military reached out to me, even before this business, I would like, oh my God, I'd drop everything because you want to feel like, oh, I didn't serve, but let me help out in this way. So not to be afraid to reach out to anyone, not just your military network, let people help you. And I've noticed in serving with a lot of guys, there's a lot of pride, they don't want to ask for help or assistance.
Correct.
I try to get them over that hump and now I go, just let people, get you where you want to be. Yeah, that's good. So how did you make the journey into politics now? What was that transition like and what's that experience been like for you being a state rep?
Yeah, it's a great question because I never even imagined for one iota of a second that this is what I would be doing.
Yeah.
And I grew up in LA, and then the next 34 years I moved 31 times, I think, something. It's a crazy number. No, 23 times. And when I retired, my wife and I looked at each other and she said, "I really want to be near my home of Boston." I said, "That's great, but I'm a Lakers fan. I could never live in Massachusetts." It's just not in my DNA. And so we looked around, and New Hampshire fit our values.
Yeah.
People that are more interested in their responsibilities than their entitlements.
Yep.
People that have a concern for their community, that are not afraid to volunteer and to help their neighbors out. A rural community based on, outdoor environmental activities, is what we do. That's who we are. And so about 5 years ago, I was just, I don't know, listening to the news or online or something, and the governor had vetoed 79 bills. Of those 79, 77 vetoes were upheld. If those bills had passed, New Hampshire would have looked like Vermont, California, Massachusetts, which is not why we moved here.
Yeah.
And so I looked myself in the mirror and I said, well, you have the resources, you have the time. And as a state rep in New Hampshire, you get paid $100 a year. So it's not about money. But to me, it was about maintaining the culture, maintaining the environment, maintaining the attitude of live free or die. And so I said, you can either be part of the solution or part of the problem. And if you're part of the problem, just shut up and color. Because you could do something.
Yeah.
Right? You could do something, but you refused.
Yeah.
And so that's your opportunity right there. And so I got engaged in local town politics just as the supervisor of the checklist. So I registered people to vote.
Yeah.
And that was sort of my foot in the door. And then when I ran for representative, I had already met a bunch of people. And so it's just about helping people.
Yeah.
That's the best part. The thing that people don't understand, which is the reason why that I'll run again and that I enjoy what I'm doing. And people don't understand this. In New Hampshire, 60 to 70% of the bills that we look at are passed on consent. And what that means is that in committee, 20 people in the committee, 10 Republicans, 10 Democrats, 100%, 90 to 100% agree to that course of action.
That's cool.
So 60 to 70% of what we pass or what we decide in the New Hampshire House is done on unanimous consent. Complete agreement between Democrats and Republicans.
I love that.
And so we get a lot done.
Yeah,
we do. We have friction. That other 30%, oh yeah,
friction.
that can be a little tense, But at the end of the day, we work together to get things done.
Yeah.
And I think New Hampshire's a great place to live because of it.
What can you share, maybe some of your favorite initiatives that you worked on and accomplished as a state rep?
Some of them are simple, right? In terms of, the one bill I actually sponsored this year saved the state about $5 million because it was in violation of federal law with regard to voter registration. Not sexy, but we were in violation and we came together and we figured out a solution, and that bill passed unanimous. Some of the bills are interesting that, you don't even think about. The environmentalists came in and said, hey, you're killing eagles, you're killing foxes and raccoons because of the pesticides that you use to kill rats. People are using it indiscriminately, throwing it out in their fields and that type of thing, and the rats eat it, and then it takes them a period of days to die. In the interim, an eagle eats it, and then the eagle gets that same pesticide. It's terrible.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that's terrible. We got to get rid of that. Well, then the pest control guy comes in and he says, yeah, you can do that, but there's nothing else on the market. And so if you consider that 2 rats put into a box, copulate, they will produce 1,200 offsprings in 1 year.
Oh, Jesus.
And so the pesticide guy said, hey, that's fine. I go into houses all the time. And when I go into these houses, there's evidence of rats everywhere. In the baby carriages, in the sinks, in the bassinet, on beds, whatever. And so you could do that, but here's the cost.
Yeah.
And so you go through this process of trying to understand how all that works. We've done a lot of work for veterans, free state park entry, homeless veteran assistance. I can't think of the other ones. There were about half a dozen veteran bills that came this year.
Yeah.
For veteran spouses, they get to keep the plates of their deceased spouse.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
great. Yeah,
so
yeah.
there's a lot of things that we look at doing. There's an outfit called the SVAC. It's the State Veterans Affairs Committee,
Hmm.
and they bring together all the veteran agencies and all the veteran organizations. And once a month, they go through all the different issues that need to be worked on.
Wow. Good for you, man. I'm sure that stuff's really rewarding, especially when you're getting all those initiatives through without the fighting that I'm sure other states endure. Um,
Yeah,
can you talk a little bit about the work with Wounded Warriors and the trips that you take them on and how that's helping that community?
yeah, I sure can. We take them to the White Mountains, to Crawford Notch Campground, and we set up big old Arctic tents. So they're 6-man tents, and we put 2 warriors in those 6-man tents. And it starts off with a fly fishing lesson, and then we hike up Arthusia Falls, which is about a 3-mile hike.
Yeah.
And the next day we take a 5-mile kayak trip, and then the next day we go rock climbing with the International Mountain School up in Concord. And in between these events, they have counselors there, and we go through a very specific healing program that's been developed by the Wounded Warrior Project, and set goals and try to bring these warriors together so that they form a bond and hold each other accountable to the goals that they've set.
Oh, it's brilliant.
And they
Yeah.
do that over a 12-week period. But the most important thing we do is we eat great chow and we play tons of cornhole. So it's a very relaxing time,
Yeah.
but they're challenged physically.
Yeah.
They have to pull together. Many of them do things that they've never thought they'd be able to do before.
Hmm.
And so they're in the process of overcoming obstacles and building that resiliency to put their past in perspective and to move on in a more positive way.
Good for you, man, for putting that together. That's amazing. I'm sure you're impacting a lot of those guys' lives. Please keep me posted on that. I'd love to promote that when the events come up. I'd love to volunteer or help out, do whatever we can to help you with that mission. That's fascinating work.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, James, I can't thank you enough for sharing a little bit of your story and giving the advice to the community. I know people are going to benefit from hearing this. And I truly appreciate what you're doing for your brothers and sisters. You're an amazing guy, and truly appreciate you.
Well, likewise, my friend. It takes a community, and I really appreciate you stepping forward in honor of your dad, a World War II veteran.
Thank you.